So I'm chatting with Tillmann Böhme this afternoon from the University of Wollongong. Thanks for joining me, Tillmann.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sam.
You were a part of a paper published earlier this year on the COVID-19 response of an additive manufacturing cluster in Australia. Could you tell us a little bit about that article and I guess how it came about?
Well, I mean, COVID is disrupting supply chains, not just like COVID is disrupting society, and how I strongly believe we're going to come out of COVID and we have the way we interact, engage is going to be very different. I mean, like, for example, Zoom is here to stay, right? But what happened is that with COVID, the virus, at least our knowledge today, came out of Wuhan and then spread out. Yet most face shield masks that the healthcare worker needs also come out of Wuhan. What a coincidence, right? There's a major manufacturer of that. So the virus disrupted these international supply chains, and there was not enough equipment available. So what we've seen is, as part of the engagement with Tricep, we've done some work with other 3D printing companies in the Illawarra, and suddenly we realized that, hey, we have a cluster here. So we have Tricep, we have a company in the iAccelerate called Me3D. We got CamPro, CamVeen down in Albion Park, and we had the makerspace. And we had a whole community backing us too. So suddenly these individual companies, they were predominantly working separately, came together, the cluster really tightened up and delivered face shield masks to local hospitals. And Tricep had a leading role because they had the sterilization equipment in-house in order to be able to make these shield masks safe. And the key design feature in there was a ring, and then the shield in itself. And I think you can also put a link in for people. There's some ABC articles on that. But observing that cluster and then having conversations with people in the cluster, how we can take this cluster forward, is something that I've just captured in this article. When there's a lot of change, there's a lot of publication opportunity, but I classify myself more as a social scientist and working alongside engineering, and this interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary environment is what I'm striving in. And that's again, was a really great exercise. And my co-authors are from the US and the UK, part of our wider UGPN network. And the workshop that we've done earlier also contributed to the cluster. So there's interest in doing more with our partner universities in this knowledge spillover that we previously talked about.
Yeah, great. And you mentioned the face shields there for here in the Illawarra that were produced for Illawarra Health. And I think it was something like 1,000 face shields each week, wasn't it, over about 3 or 4 weeks, that really came together quite quickly.
Yes, and we had the makerspace. They shared some of the designs for our local tinkerers sitting at home, and they also wanted to contribute. So it's not just this little cluster of 4 companies, but we have like the makerspace had to manage the whole of the tinkerer community in the Illawarra, who also wanted to contribute and help, and wanted to make their equipment available, which was just such encouraging to see, like when devastation struck, like how this fairly close-knit community can really pull together and deliver outcomes, which I think it deserved to be captured, put it this way.
And I guess, COVID-19 is one thing, but I guess what are some other things that this cluster could, come together to achieve?
Well, we talked about how we can tighten this cluster further, and it all comes down to there's a collaborative mindset with those individual businesses. Some are more profit driven, and some are like the university in itself, research driven. and where we have a lot of complementary skill sets. You know, we have educational printers and we have commercial printers and we have research equipment. Tricep has metal printers, which none of the other players have. So how do you arrange this cluster? What else can we do? Good question. I think it really comes down to industry, local industry, placing more demand on the cluster. And it might be initially in the prototyping space, but we've seen some innovative businesses in the Illawarra that were part of the cluster and then used that cluster to then invest in their own 3D printing equipment. There's a lot more demand on the cluster as soon as we're coming out of lockdown.
Yeah, hopefully sooner rather than later.
But yeah, I would like I think what the cluster really needs is an IT platform, because for me, what I'm looking at is just a network of printers, and that needs to be contractually managed. But like any school kid that is working on a Me 3D printer should be able to send the designs to another printer and pay for it, like a paid printing version of the same. So the cluster over time, as the technology matures and the awareness grows, I think has a lot of potential.
Yeah, great. Well, fingers crossed that it does grow and that we can get out of lockdown and it can, be pushed forward even more so.
Yeah, we have 3-4 companies lined up for a type workshop that are ready to go and really. I think the other thing that COVID did is exposing our local companies to their vulnerability of their supply chain, their global spanning supply chains in the import. And we get a lot more inquiries to see how you could redesign your products using more local suppliers. And sometimes you just bring some of the capacity in-house using 3D printing is just one of those potential solutions.